I liked your post yesterday with over 1,000 reactions. When are you going to shave your beard?
It's done. Look,
Oh.
trimmed. The beard is trimmed.
Oh, I didn't even notice the microphone was covering it up.
It's short, so yeah, you can use that. We can use that in the pod. So the context is after 7 or 8 years of posting on LinkedIn, finally got a post that got over 1,000 like.
Is that how close did you got to before?
450, like not even close.
Shit. That's cool. You just got to post a meme, basically. That's although you've done plenty of those before.
Yeah, for some reason this one hit the nail. I think it's because there was a lot of comments about age, and when you talk about consultant being 23 and giving advice, there's like you get the boomers. If you manage to get the boomers, you're good.
The boomers agreeing, and then all of the 23-year-old consultants going, "Oh, fucking boomer."
Exactly. If you can hit on both sides, I think that's how you get viral.
Yeah, well, that's good. Is it still going?
Yeah, it's still getting likes like every day. I think it's 1,200 now or something like that. But yeah, it's nice. So I said if I went over 1,000, I'll shave my beard. It's just trimmed, but it's a good trim though if you compare to the episode last week, much shorter.
It is a lot shorter.
And I got my nails painted as well. So if you're watching, you'll see it's nice and summery, nice blue.
Is that a
Geneva blue?
Is that a new thing for you?
No, I've been doing this since like 2018. I feel like I was too early then. Now it's more of a thing, but it's still niche, especially for senior marketers and head of growth and CMOs. I don't think there's that many
with their nails
head of growth with their nails painted.
Hey
Tom.
How are ya?
All good?
Very good.
Yeah, I'm good. Nice to see you again, Yoann. How you been, man?
Nice to see you. Yeah, all good. Yeah, it's been a few weeks, a few months maybe since we connected for the first time. So nice to see you again on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude. You guys have got a pretty professional looking setup there. I need one of those microphones.
Yeah, we upgraded pretty quickly. It's strange how some people feel like we should have met a long time ago and we just connected like a few months ago.
Yeah,
it feels a bit strange. But for those who don't know you, we're not spending too much time on intros and careers and stuff, but it'd be good to like get a little intro from you, like what you've done in the past briefly, like where you worked before and what you're doing now, and then we can go deep into the topic of the day, which will be community for Detroit out there. But yeah, go for it.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me on, fellas. Really keen to chat with you, especially about community. It's sort of a marketing subject that I always love talking about, and I guess maybe that's part of why I love it, is because it's been a pretty important part of the previous sort of few roles that I've had. I started my career in San Francisco, where I studied, and I worked in Silicon Valley for a few years before moving to New York, and where I was working for TransferWise, and that was really where I sort of got a lot of my early marketing schooling. I hadn't really worked in marketing before until I got that role, and worked with some brilliant marketers there. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to work there is because I was really attracted to their marketing and a lot of the things they did early on, as well as it being an awesome product. And then I moved from TransferWise New York to London. That's sort of how I found myself in the UK. And then shortly after, I moved over to Monzo, and I worked in product marketing at Monzo in a few different roles there, on the lending side of the business, sort of all the products that we're trying to make Monzo money. So it was a really interesting marketing challenge there, because we, had growth was not the problem. There was like endless growth there. It was sort of like good growth and trying to build a sustainable business, which is very different to the challenge we had at Wise, where every single customer made us money, and so it was a really different marketing challenge there. And then I left Wise. Left Monzo, just over 2 years ago to join Yonder. At the time, as one of the first employees, there was a designer here and the founding team, and then I joined, and my remit was much broader than product marketing. It was sort of everything under the marketing banner. And the first year was all about product development and product marketing and positioning and building a product and proposition with Craig, our head of design, and Tim, CEO. And then, that very quickly changed to growth and sort of brand building and stuff once we'd been live in market. So yeah, that's been my sort of like journey to this point in time. And we're now into our sort of second year, and we just raised some more money, a month or so ago, and things are going really well. And so it's been fun.
Nice.
You studied in San Francisco, Tom, did you say?
Yeah, I was desperate to be a professional footballer when I was a kid, and when I didn't quite make it, I was sort of thrown a lifeline to go and play at college in America, and so I went to the US to play. And at this point in time, I was very aware that I didn't have what it took, but I was trying to milk it for whatever I could. And going through the American college system is so fun because they're obsessed with sport over there. There's a lot of money in the system, and you can essentially live a fake professional life for a few years. So I did that, and I absolutely loved it. I was in Kentucky for my first year and then I transferred to the West Coast. And I say I was in San Francisco, but I was actually in Oakland Hills. So sort of overlooking the whole Bay Area. It was a beautiful part of the world, and I really loved my time there.
That's very cool. And when you say football, are we talking soccer or American football?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Nice. That sounds great. I've always thought it'd be so fun to have gone to college in the States. Super jealous about that. But you've ended up in London, man. That's I'm not jealous of that.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you now? Are you based in London?
Yeah, I was. I moved out into the kind of countryside a bit, which is a fairly large mistake a couple of years ago. So I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, Tom. I think one of the reason we really wanted to talk to you, and originally as we spoke as well, was the focus on very early on building a community at Yonder. And you wrote something pretty cool on Medium. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago? Something like recently you wrote an article about it, a blog. And I really just wanted to focus on that because I think, from your past experience, like, Monzo is a good example of, community building and what they've done there. And I'm assuming there's some differences in doing it now for, a much smaller company in the earlier phase, maybe. So yeah, let's dive into that. I guess my first question is, how do you define a community? What is and isn't a community?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it looks different everywhere. And I've had, one of the reasons I wrote that blog post, I've actually sort of tried to make a bit of a habit of reflecting on a lot of big learnings that I've had over the last 2 years, because I think, I love to go and talk shit on LinkedIn about how things are going. And I'm truly proud and excited, but it's been really bloody hard to be the first marketing hire at a company, having never done this before, coming in with quite a lot of like pressure, having worked at some very well-known financial services in the past. And so for me to be a product marketer and having to then develop a whole other set of skill sets around hiring, managing. I've never directly managed people before. I've never hired directly before. I've never had to set a budget, been given a few £100,000, like, well, how are you going to use this? Or, even learning about growth, the difference between marketing and growth, and, all these things were, so I guess, I spent a bit of time writing a few different posts over the last couple of years, which were sort of directed to people like me at other companies. So like if you're a first time marketer, or you're a founder who has no marketers in their team, and you're trying to understand what to do. And so eventually I got around to reflecting on our community strategy, because I think there's, I wrote in there's a lot of things we've got wrong over the last 18 months, but I think the thing I'm probably proudest of is our approach to building community with our first, 500-600 customers. And, community changes as well, I think, as a company grows. And I think that's something that Monzo, that we found really difficult adjusting to at Monzo. Monzo has this very famous sort of like forum online with thousands of early adopters that were pivotal in the early adoption and building of that product. But then, later on, especially the products that I was working on, paid products, we found it was really difficult to get the balance right between satisfying early customers who are, they're the very niche users of your product. They use it in very specific ways and they want, really specific things from your product. And then Monzo's trying to balance that with building products for millions of people and for mass adoption. And I think a good example for us at Monzo was like budgeting. If you're like a Monzo super user, then you love budgeting and you budget down to the penny. And I'm sort of similar. I can empathize with that because I've always sort of loved doing that as well myself. But then the average person does not operate that way. And so it's really difficult trying to satisfy your early customers and also build a mass market product. And I think that can be quite jarring when you don't set those expectations with those early customers. And so, I think that your community strategy has to change as you grow. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And Tim, the Yonder CEO and I, we talk about this a lot. We're so proud of our community. We have a lot of love for them. They have a lot of love for us, but we know that we won't be able to keep this format forever. And we've been really public with people as well that we will always review this. As if it's no longer providing value for you and it's no longer providing value for us, then we're not going to, persist with it just for the sake of it. So I think it's important to not come into looking at what community could look like for your brand with like something already in mind, like, oh, we need a WhatsApp group or we need a Facebook group or, we go and build me a community online, because it's a very good chance that just might not suit the product or the business or the brand that you're building. I think we're really fortunate that our strategy has worked for us because I think, first of all, I'll be very honest, we got, I think, very lucky with a lot of things. I think it's important to say that, I'm no smarter than the next sort of person working in this industry. And I think we got fortunate that we had a certain type of person using our product early on, which we went after intentionally. And our strategy sort of just worked really, really well with that type of customer. And so, that was, really important for us. So anytime I speak to someone about community, I'm like, abandon whatever you think community looks like for you, leave it behind. It's not a Facebook group. It's not a Discord chat. It's nothing. Start from what you want to get out of your community and then build from there, basically.
Yeah.
I love that. And the place you started from, Tom, it sounds like from the essay that you wrote was from a point like having a group of people, as you put it, that helps your marketing punch above its weight. And I thought that was a really nice way of saying it. I've always thought that's such a nice thing to build, like this, you're kind of like early user mafia you can just chuck your social posts into that chat and they'll jump on it and they'll start off that initial kind of conversation. They'll test things for you. They'll give you feedback. So it sounds like that's the kind of, what you wanted to get from it from the outset was that kind of little powerhouse of users.
Yeah, I think that's such a good way to put it. One thing I think, they genuinely want us to succeed, I think really helps. And so, we do incentivize certain things. We'll do user research sessions. We'll give them some Yonder points or some cash to participate in those things. We want to value their time. But there's so many examples I can think of where, we wanted to do some Facebook ad testing last year, and I was like, send me some UGC videos of you recording yourself and why you love Yonder. And then at this time we maybe had 400 people in the chat, and then within 2 hours I had 15, 20 messages of people on their iPhones on the street being like, hey, I hope this is okay. Let me know if you need me to change it around. Or and another time, we were finalists for the Best Credit Card of the Year awards this year, and we needed to have a certain amount of votes. We had 0 votes. We were sort of included because they'd heard about us. And I posted and I was like, look, we need minimum 150 votes to be included. And we got the votes in 3 hours or something, It was just...
Wow.
And I think you would... And when I say punch above our weight is if you were looking from outside, you would look and be like, wow, they must have 100,000 customers to do that. But we don't. We have a few thousand super engaged people that just really want us to do well. And so it means that from a marketing perspective, we can operate at a level of a company that's maybe 5 times bigger, 10 times bigger than we are.
That's amazing. It's like having your own little kind of UGC factory on tap whenever you need some content.
Yeah. Trustpilot reviews is another one. We said the same thing. We help help us out. We went from 0 to sort of 200 Trustpilot reviews overnight and a nearly 5-star rating. And I think it helps as well that our product is not perfect. We have bugs and problems and stuff all the time, but I think it's really rooted in the fact that people know that we're trying to do our best for them, and so they then are very empathetic in the way they support us and understand that things aren't always going to be right. We're not always going to get things right. And I think at the end of the day, we're trying to deliver as much value to them as possible, and so they want us to succeed. And so it's just a nice relationship in that sense.
That's really cool. There's another way that we found quite useful at Nude, which is to do Q&As. We bring on people to the community to answer their questions. So it works as almost like a mini collab where they get external expert on whatever the topic is, and they can ask questions and stuff. So it's within themselves, but also as a brand, you can build authority as well and trust by doing that. That's quite cool too. But which platform did you use to kickstart it? Because I don't think we mentioned it. What do you use?
So our initial stab at community was a huge failure, and I think we learned a lot from that. I think Tim, when I joined, he was like, build me the Monzo forum next week. And, we tried to force community as much as we could in that first 6 months. And it was so painful. We had a Facebook group originally. We put all of our friends and family into it. So there probably would have been, let's call it 30 or 40 people. Every time we did a user research session with someone, we're like, hey, join the group and we'll let you know about updates. And it was such a slog getting any form of feedback or interaction because, when I really reflect on it, we had no product. There was it's just all in the ether. It's just these ideas would you like this? Would you like this? It's really hard for people to think about it. A lot of them just didn't care. And so, and I think there's a few sort of, issues there, but ultimately I think it was the wrong platform for us too. It was the kind of platform where people just aren't spending their time anymore, especially from our target audience. And so we decided to bin that after, really battling through it. And then when we eventually launched our sort of call it alpha or, beta product, we went back and forth on all the different, what if it's a WhatsApp group? What if it's a Discord? And eventually, we made the decision to use Slack because we were intentionally targeting people that worked in tech because they have a high threshold for products that don't work. So they're always keen to give feedback and support companies that are trying something new. They love trying new products that have no reputation, no brand, no nothing. They just want to try new things. They like working closely with the teams that are building stuff because they're building things themselves and they have a lot of empathy for those challenges. And ultimately, they've got Slack on their computer and they're on their computer all day, right? So in terms of accessibility to those people and their time, Slack was, the perfect tool for us. And again, I say we got lucky because we were sort of on the fence about lots of different tools and it was a game day decision. I was like, let's just do it. Let's go Slack. And so, when I say what I think we did really well was we had a really niche type of person that fit that description I just mentioned. So they love supporting startups. They actually see pain points in products as opportunities for them to give feedback and help improve the product. They're not like, fuck this stupid app, it doesn't work, which is what most people, 99% of people do when they try a new product, right? It doesn't work. See you later. And so when we sort of designed our marketing sort of launch through, PR and all that things, we only targeted platforms and places that we know those people spend their time on and didn't bother with anything else. So yeah, I think, we were as smart as we could be about our approach, but also we just got so lucky because all these things aligned for us. And additionally, our product just has a lot of you using it every day, so maybe unlike Nude, you're not logging in every day. Yonder, our daily active users are 70, 80% people use the product every day. They're checking transactions there. So they're in it all the time. They're thinking about it all the time. We have new rewards programs. So unlike say Amex, we update our, partners every month and there's sort of bars and restaurants and events and gigs and gyms and stuff all around London. So people are always like, oh, I wonder what's on there now, or, that kind of stuff. So we also had people constantly just having reasons to come and give us feedback and talk about things in the product. So yeah, I think for us, I'll keep saying it over and over again because I don't want to pretend like I had this like master plan all along, but it's worked really well for us, I guess is what I'll say.
That's very cool because I know you mentioned that it was on Slack in the Medium article, and I was going to ask you if you had any like a barrier to overcome with getting people that may not be using Slack, but you've answered that question already. And it's really interesting because we had Amy Reed from On a couple, on a previous episode, and she was saying the same thing, that they find it the cohort they find most interesting to get feedback from is people that are working in the product space, and echoing exactly what you said. So I think that's a really nice little takeaway from this.
That's true.
Yeah, and look, we've got, I think I put something in the Slack as well. Like, you should probably always account for about 50% of people to be somewhat active, 30% to be pretty active, 10, and then like 1 or 2% to be every day. And we've got people like that. But there's also 50% of people that just like never check it, right? And we could optimize the shit out of it if we wanted to. We could go, but like we don't need to, right? We're like, look, if it feels right, great. And so there are definitely people in there, like, friends of mine who maybe don't work in tech. They just downloaded Slack just to help me out and be friendly. Like, they're not going to Slack, So for those people, it doesn't work. And I've got mates back in the US that work in crypto, and they all add me to their like Discords and stuff. And I just never use Discord. And it's not that I don't want to support them. It's just like, I don't use the app. I don't know how it works. And so platform definitely has, an important role to play in this for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of engagement plan or content plan when it comes to the community? Do you know in advance, like, these are the topics for the week, or how do you maintain engagement? Is it all organic coming from the people, or do you like seed it with a little, poke them with a little question or something?
Yeah, early on, I think we were far more intentional about this. I think it's really important that, I think I likened it to walking into like a party and no one being there. And so it's really important that when people come to your community, they see really good examples of what to expect from your community. So early on, one thing I've tried to be really clear about is that community is not a marketing problem to solve. It is I think it's a company culture. It's an approach that we have to working with customers. And so I've been so clear that like, community is not my problem. It is not I don't own it explicitly. We all do within the company. And so if you go into our Slack, you'll see engineers interacting with people that have directly raised the bugs. You'll see support team interacting with people. The founders are going in there speaking about like why we made certain strategic decisions or why we've done things. Designers, here's why we designed this way. And this, I'm in there a lot. But so I think early on I was like, okay, every week someone else is responsible for engaging with our community, and that might be picking, X person to go and be like, all right, look, I've got a few thoughts. I want some feedback from you on this. So I wanted to make sure we had some stuff in there. And then over time, just as as the community's got bigger, there's naturally just more conversation in there. We don't have many channels. We've got sort of a few to chat about rewards, bugs, some, other things in there. So generally like the conversation feels pretty, like it just flows. I'd say we get a few messages in our community every day now. It might be someone's like, oh, I went to this restaurant, you guys should check it out. Or I had this problem. I think you should change your billing cycle, and then we'll have a discussion with them. And, we have a lot of, I think importantly, I've always tried to encourage, I think maybe taking a step back, Slack is also a great channel because people have to put their faces in their names. And I have a real problem with online forums where people use, like fake profile pictures, and it's just something that happens to a person when they're not talking from themselves. They're far more direct. They're not very considerate. They lose a lot of empathy when they interact with people, and it's sadly, a big part of the internet is those types of relationships. And so, we want to always encourage really challenging feedback, and we get that from people a lot. But the fact that we're interacting with people, we know who they are, they know who we are, actually brings a whole other level of, I think, empathy to the problems we're trying to solve. And so, I think that's was sort of important for us. So, I guess, to answer your question, we started out by having a bit more of a strict plan around making sure we have X amount of messages every month and people replying and this. And then over time, it's been a bit more like, like they're in there. We'll ask them important stuff when we need to or get feedback. And it feels very natural. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the best way to do it. When you talk about crypto earlier and crypto communities, I did a bit of work with one a year or two ago, and they were really keen on building a community, as all of these kind of crypto projects do. And we got in touch with a few consultants that specialized in community building in the Web3 space. As you can imagine, they're like 13 years old and they've done this like 100 times already. But an interesting thing that came up that I hadn't really thought about before was what they call community programming, which is specifically like, yes, you can spin up a Discord, like you say, or create a Slack group, but unless you are actively engaging the people and you have some kind of program, be it this week we're talking about this, next week we're talking about that, or every Monday we ask this question, every Wednesday we talk about that question, there just naturally isn't that. It's just like it's dead. And it sounds like it's what you're saying, you can kind of start with that and then just slowly dial that down, and it just naturally bringing that organic content, and that's obviously the sweet spot.
Yeah, and there are like just naturally times where things come up. So we did a crowdfund campaign a couple months ago, and there was a lot of chat about that in the the Slack. And then previously before that, we were nominated for a few awards, so we're sort of talking about that. And then we were changing our experience as a rewards program. So there's like discussion, and so there are always sort of like these discussion points coming up. And but like I said, I don't think too much about it now. It's just like, we'll ask the community what they think about this, and then we'll go and do that, rather than being like, okay, it's Monday, what are we going to talk to them about?
Yeah, that's really cool. I think what you said about bringing the whole company behind the community is really important. It's probably something that we should improve at Nude. So it's not a marketing thing. Everyone jumps in. I think that's a good, really good advice.
Do you remember at Smartly, Yo and Tom, you might have come across Smartly before for managing kind of Facebook ads. They're a tool to do that. One of the really nice things that they did, at least in the early days, they might not do it now, but they probably still do, was that they have intercom built into their products. If you need support with anything, so it's just like 24/7 there. But they cycled the entire company through, so you'd see, it would be active on support for the next 2 hours. You'd have like a developer, the head of marketing, the CMO, and the CTO. And any question you had didn't have to be within their remit. It was just like, I've got this issue, I don't know how to do this. They would be answering you. And I just think that's a really nice way of like building that, I guess, keeping your community in mind for all levels of the organization, rather than just, yourself or someone on the marketing team or someone on the community team. We do that as well, up until I'm actually on Yonder customer support tonight from 10 p.m. till 7 a.m. Wow. We do 24 10 till 7.
Yeah, I mean, you go to sleep, and like if someone has a big problem, it'll wake you up. But
wow.
Early on, we were doing a shift sometimes twice a week when we were small, and I used to know the first 250, 300 Yonder customers by name, and because we onboarded them all sort of 50, 60 at a time, and they were often friends of friends or referrals, and so we know where they come from, where they live, and what their interests are, and like it's quite funny, and they'll pop up. You're like, hey man, I haven't heard from you in a while. And we, everyone does that, and even our founders, the CEO, CRO, and CTO, and they'll be like, I can't believe I'm getting my problem solved by the CEO right now. Like, it's Sunday afternoon, and that's just. It's a whole other, approach to sort of like customer and brand building, and part of it was a resourcing thing as well. It's really difficult for us to do that with a small team, but it definitely has, again, it builds that empathy between your customers and your team. They're like, oh God, man, the CEO's so busy. I can't believe he's helping me with my card problem right now. And
it's very cool.
People really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a specific, strategy as to when do you add someone to your community? What's the right time to, pop the question, I would say.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think doing it when they're most excited about your product is important. Doing it too soon, I think you can get people who are not very engaged or haven't had a good experience with your product yet, and maybe they come in with a sense of negativity or just like apathy towards you. For us, and I learned this at Wise and Monzo, is but that moment that your card comes in the mail and you unbox it and you've got this really nice new, for some reason, there's some emotional connection between people and their payment devices, and it's something that I've seen time and again over the last few years. And so when you get your Yonder card, we put months of work into this experience, because someone once described it to me. It's like it's the marketing channel that gets 100% open rate for you. And so we put a bit of effort in it. It comes in this really nice box. You open it up. There's like a booklet inside that we've designed that comes with information about like how the product works and some things that we recommend. And we really want it to feel like a membership. So in this moment, you've got your card and you've got this thing, and then the second you activate your card in your email, we send you in the app. We send you an email that says, "Do you want to join our founding member community? Give us feedback, speak directly to the team, get invited to private events and awards and giveaways." I don't know what the conversion rate is. Like, again, we haven't bothered optimizing this. It's never been something that we've wanted to just like tweak within, an inch of its life. We're just like, look, if you want to join, then great. And people are just trickling in all the time, every day.
That's what you want, though,
there's so many
right?
people in there, yeah. And then like, I've got mates that have been in there, and I didn't even know they were in there. And they're like, "Hey, man, this is cool." And I was like, "When did you join this, mate?" And so yeah, that's when we do it. And I think it's at a really exciting time, and I think it reinforces that moment of like, oh, I want to go use my card now and see what things are like. And so yeah, it worked really well for us. For others, there may not be a natural, but if you're in e-commerce or anything, I think that moment of like having your first package delivered or something is, the moment that that it's been dropped off at so-and-so's house, like, ping them with that, have you opened it yet? Or what did you think? Or send us a photo of you and a selfie of the thing you just bought, whatever it might be. Those moments of like real emotional excitement for customers, I think, are the best time to ask them to be involved.
Yeah, I love that. You just mentioned that you, in the early days, you were kind of bringing people on in batches. What was that kind of acquisition strategy that fueled that?
Yeah, so we effectively launched Yonder probably 3 or 4 different times. We launched to our team, so that was our first 10 customers were just the people building the product, and then we wanted to, and the goal for us was like, does it work? Does the card work? I think a lot of marketers obsess over like big bang launches or like going viral on Product Hunt or something, and I always recommend that like those things are great. I think having your viral moments are awesome at the right time. We didn't want 1 million customers on day one. Like, it probably would have been nothing worse for us to have more than 10 people use our product. The onboarding was, Harry, my CTO, will probably agree with me, it was a nightmare. It was like, it was almost impossible to sign up for our product. So why would we put people through that? All we want to do is test if the card works. Why would I want my mates trying this out right now? And so we launched to 10 of us, and then we tested that, and it was really painful. And then we got to a point where, okay, it seems to work somewhat. And then we all invited one friend each. So we went from 10 to 20 customers, and each person at Yonder was responsible for that other person's experience. So, it was like, we made sure that any WhatsApp feedback was coming to us directly, and then we would all put it into a channel. And so at 20, then we had, a few more use cases and edge cases. Cards were starting to work more effectively. Then we're like, all right, let's go from 20 to 50. So we all invited another 1 or 2 friends each. So then we've got to 50 customers, and you can effectively keep that up. I think we sort of started to max that out at about 150. I remember like in our first month, Tim being like, well, where's the next 200 or 300 customers coming from? And when I was like, I think that's when we had maxed out that sort of like extended friends and family network. At that point in time, we had a lot of confidence in our onboarding. We had a lot of confidence in the user experience. It wasn't perfect, and that was when I sort of like went about designing our, like our big PR campaign that when we launched our like fundraising announcement last year, and we did that, and we got another 2,000 people on our wait list, and then we could go and cherry pick the people we wanted from there. So that was sort of how we got to 300-400 customers at that point in time. And then from then on, we had all those people were like, can I invite my friends? So then we sort of put together some makeshift refer a friend programs that were like, I was tracking manually through like a Bitly. It was an absolute disaster.
Nice.
And then we went and built that. And then, we got to, 600-700 customers. And then we're like, okay, now what does our actual marketing growth strategy look like? And that's a whole other conversation, which I could go into with you. But, I think a lot of companies probably are too quick to want to be on the front page of TechCrunch or want to drop their stuff on Product Hunt, because there's so much, you can learn from just getting your mates to, I'm like, launch your product on WhatsApp. That's what I sort of encourage people to do. Your friends generally will be happy to help you and want their friends to succeed. So don't, miss out on the opportunities to launch to those small groups of 10 or 20 people at a time.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to, in the risk of asking the same question that I've asked other people, but I think I'm going to ask people that I feel like will be on my side of the answer. And I feel like from what you've said, Tom, you probably will be. When it comes to like the balance between getting your MVP product out there and just getting people using it versus spending more time to kind of craft it into that experience that you kind of always envisaged it to be, what's your kind of preference on that scale?
It's such a good question, because I think it really does depend. And for us, we had a few differences for our product that were unique to us that we had to consider. So the first one is Yonder was £15 a month. So we're one of the only fintechs in Europe to launch with like a fee upfront, especially that high.
Right.
And so when you're asking people to pay for your product, they are expecting some level of quality in return, right? You can't just be like, give us 15 quid and we'll get there eventually. Like it has to be pretty polished. And so for us, it was like, what is the level of polish? And, we ended up giving our customers, everyone that signed up in the first 3 or 4 months got 6 months for free, because we're like, we don't want the fee to be a blocker for you right now. We want you using it and getting comfortable with it and giving us feedback. That's what we optimized for. So I think that gave us a bit of confidence to launch when we knew there were some issues. I think the other consideration too was when you're a payment card and you're trying to get people to change their behavior from whatever they're using to yours, it has to work. It has to work all the time, because the moment your card doesn't work, they'll put it in the back of their pocket or the back of their wallet and they'll never use it again. And so, that was why launching to early adopters and tech users was so important for us, because you get 4 or 5 bites at the cherry before they say no. And so we had a lot of problems early on when you're new on I won't get into specifics of the boring payment network of being a credit card, but when you first launch onto MasterCard's network, there's just so many teething issues you can never imagine. We had like random issues in like the Bahamas, or like just things not working in certain places, and so you had to get to some level of like acceptance where we're like, okay, we're ready to go now. So, but having said that, if we wanted to polish forever, we never would have launched. And so it's hard for me to put a number or a percentage on sort of like what our MVP versus final product was. But I would say that we're probably more polished than you would have expected from like a free fintech product that launched out the door, that you can just be like, oh, fuck it, like let's get them going and see what happens. We had to put a bit more thought into that overall experience, because when you're building a brand, it has to feel good everywhere all the time. It has to be so consistent. You can't just be like, oh, we want to be a premium brand now, but then like not when our card works, and all those things have to connect. And so, sorry if that's not the
perfect great.
Answer you're looking for.
No, that is the right answer in my opinion, because you said what I wasn't considering. If it's a paid upfront product, then that completely makes sense. So that's great.
Big time.
I'm kind of curious at something you hinted earlier, which is that transition from community effort to what's after. And just without going too much into like details into other channels and stuff, but like that process, and then finding that 1 or 2 other channel that you're gonna use on top of community to get your mix right. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like how did you do that, and what you ended up doing?
Yeah. I mean, I would very happily talk through our whole growth learnings in a whole other 2 hours with you, because it's been been a very interesting, call it 9 months, I think, going through this. And I think for our product in particular, there's a whole other world of like risk and fraud, and you can't bring on everyone that wants your product, because a lot of people that want credit cards, actually you shouldn't give credit cards to, or their intentions are to use your product and then never pay you back. And our mission is we're trying to rebuild young people's relationship with credit. So we're trying to get people to get comfortable with using credit and paying credit off and building towards a better financial futures. It's really hard to like be like, oh, we want you to use our product, but you can't use our product, but we want you. And so that added a whole other level of like, risk to the product. And so when we did a lot of Facebook testing early on, top of funnel, unbelievable. We had a few of those videos I was telling you about from our customers that just got God, like so many people coming through to, call it registration status, like filling out, applying. And then we ended up getting like maybe like 6 or 7 customers from maybe 10 grand in spend or something, because they were all just like the wrong customer for us entirely. And so, we thought, like every other company in the world will just like, we'll have some percentage word of mouth, some percentage like paid social, the rest will sort of make itself up, and then we'll be laughing. And we sort of immediately found out the paid social in the format that we were trying to explore was just not at all viable for us. So, growth, I think, was very painful for us in a period last year where we were trying to not just get some growth, but get like good quality customers in the door and balance that with like the risk of bringing on people who could go either way. We looked at like loads of different channels. We were sponsoring different podcasts and newsletters. We were, we were working with like different brands to sort of get exposure, and we got a lot of top of funnel, great sort of like awareness at times, but very little bottom funnel conversion because there's a lot of friction to using our product. There's a fee, there's a credit application. People don't understand how credit works. They don't want it to hurt their scores. There's all these things. People don't just sign up for credit cards on a whim, and they shouldn't. They should do their research and they should make sure it's the right product for them. So we also learned that we're a considered purchase that requires people a lot of time to make the right decision for our product. It's not just, I imagine, Yoann, you've had similar experiences with Nude where people want to go do their research. They're like, your app looks great, but I'm going to compare it with Nutmeg and some older versions and this. And it doesn't just happen overnight. And
no, it takes time.
It takes a lot of time. So, we've got to a point now where our growth mix is, word of mouth is still really strong for us, and some paid, some unpaid, word of mouth, that is. So we incentivize through referrals and stuff. Another big channel is aggregators, so Credit Karma, Money Supermarket, these. But then again, those customers they're hyper rational. They're looking for the best deals. They typically are less engaged and churn more. And so you want to try and balance those customers with the ones that join for your brand and for the rewards and the type of experiences they can unlock, because they're less likely to churn and they get more value from your product. So that's sort of a bit of what our like marketing mix looks like at the moment. I'm really keen to start getting back into testing more paid channels, because I think being a bit more thoughtful about the content and our approach might give us different outcomes. But the first time around, it was not success.
Do you get blocked by the special category thing on ads? Like, do you have to tick that box, or can you go without it?
We do. Yeah, and TikTok have been shadow ban a lot of content, even if it's educational sort of like content around how do credit cards work or how do credit scores work. I think there's a lot of triggering terms in there that TikTok's like, what? No, we're not even going to bother, because they've been burned by all of these like fin influencers who are just like, and so it's been really hard for us to, I think from my perspective, an important part of our brand and mission is to educate younger people on the values of using credit responsibly. We believe firmly that like credit is not good or bad. It is just a financial instrument that you can use, and used in the right way, it gives you more rewards and better purchase protection, and gives you, a more affordable mortgage in the future, all these great benefits. Used in the wrong way can cause, debt and anxiety and harm. And so we want to educate people around this, but a lot of these sort of social platforms are just blanket, like saying no to it. And so I don't think we've put enough effort into it. But yeah, it's been a battle. And, I sort of don't blame these platforms for taking this approach either, because they're just trying to protect their users who are young, impressionable, and they mistake a lot of these influencers for people giving real financial advice and don't know that they're actually getting paid to do it.
Yeah, that's true. And what about out of home? Because I still see the buses in London. I still see the buses. Do you guys use this as purely a brand building exercise, or does it fit with your mix and you're tracking the results? Now it's been running for I think quite some time, right?
Yeah. So the out of home for us was a result of a lot of learnings we had from last year. So the things I talked about around being a considered purchase and people needing to sort of be very aware of your product before they even enter that phase of their decision making around which product is right for them. I think it was also a combination of we were fortunate to raise funding at a time when a lot of other startups didn't and probably won't. And so as a result, the media costs were much, much lower earlier in the year than they typically would be. And so there was an opportunity for us to, get significant amount of exposure to London. At the moment, our product is only available in London. And so, we could talk really openly about our proposition to people that could get value out of our product through out of home. And so it's actually far more effective than, say, a brand that has national coverage, but they're trying to focus on London for whatever reason. So for all of these reasons, we wanted to do it, and we wanted to test it. We wanted to test and see how it worked. At Wise, they used out of home really effectively early on to generate a lot of buzz and PR and interest in what they were doing. Obviously, famously quite difficult to measure. We saw anecdotally our sort of like web traffic triple within, like a very short period of time of that going live. We didn't even have a website on the ads because I wanted to treat it more like basically, we were sort of depositioning one of our like biggest competitors and being quite cheeky in how we wanted to do it. And so for a lot of reasons, it made sense for us to do it. If you get into the CPAs or the CACs of doing that, I would say not worth it. But that certainly wasn't the goal for us. And I think, a lot of brands are probably much better at this than we are, and it's, works out for them.
Jake, did you have a question? I don't want to.
I did, and then very unprofessionally I forgot it. So I was prepping my second follow-up question.
I wanted to tie back what we just said, like everything we just said to community, and ask you, like, how far do you think you can push it on in your mix? Like, how big do you think this can be? And do you think of it as maybe the only thing that can't be copied in what you do? And maybe that's why you're doing it. Because I really like that notion of the community for that reason, because that's not a product, that's not a feature that can be duplicated. Yeah. What do you think of that?
It's without a doubt a competitive advantage for us at the moment. It's something that our biggest competitors could never do. They don't have the empathy with their customers. They don't have the brands that people feel attached to, and also we're just so small. We're so small compared to them. We're 1% of the size of our biggest competitors, and so we can, like the old startup, adage goes, we're doing things that don't scale. And at the moment, that is having hundreds of one-on-one conversations with customers every month in Slack. And so, I don't know what the signs will be that we've outgrown it. I think, the things I'm sort of aware of is the tone still good? Is the sentiment amongst our customers and users in that Slack channel still positive? And are we still getting value out of it as a team? And, I would say that we're probably nowhere near maxing that out because, still so many examples of like designers dropping, like, hey, we've got some designs we want some feedback on, and like, and then we get loads of really good feedback right away. And I don't know what bad will look like for us in our community. I think, like I said, the Monzo community has been held up as like a, gold standard for a long, long time, and I think continues to be really valuable for them. But the challenges they've had is it's been very difficult for them to get, I think, truly reflective feedback of their broader base. And I think maybe if we start to see a real disconnect between our early adopters and our larger base users, then maybe that's when we're starting to see, reasons for it to go. I think community will always be part of our strategy. It comes so naturally to me as a marketer from my time in Monzo, and I think it will just change. It will change. Maybe it will go to like, less two-way conversations and more, more one-way informative stuff, or I don't know.
Even potentially, I'm just thinking out loud, but potentially maybe cohorted based on when you joined. Maybe there's like a way to batch customers, so your new customers are always on the early version of the community to get them almost when you get someone into a course or something. You teach them what they need to know at the right time. Maybe there's something there. I don't, sounds probably complicated to do. I don't know any tools that would help you to do that, but like some you could see when they joined and, build on top of that. Yeah.
We've talked about potentially taking it out of Slack and putting it in product in more intuitive ways. I think ClassPass I've seen do some cool stuff where it's, let's say your friend, refers you to ClassPass. If you then sign up, it'll show you like, Yoann went to this class, maybe you like it. And I think given how social our product is, we've intentionally tried to make Yonder better with friends. It's been a big part of our product building thesis where, like you can send your Yonder points from one person to like another Yonder customer, like instantly. We've removed all the barriers for that. It's all about getting people together. Our rewards are all better shared. They're dining out. They're going for drinks. They're going to events, all the things that you do with your friends. So I imagine there's probably some element of, community we can bake into that product, which is like, so-and-so people like you are going here or join this group of people who are going to this event. And so community could become just an important part of our product, which I think feels much better at scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that answer. I think I like the notion of, it obviously depends on the product, the app, or the use case, but the notion of like leaderboards and like gamification a little bit, like building streaks in the community, that builds ritual, which in exchange could build engagement within the community of people talking about that thing that they're doing every day or every week amongst themselves. But that needs to be a lot more baked into the product, like you said. It needs to be part of the experience within the app or the website or whatever it is. Yeah,
and we're sort of starting to see it now, where initially it was conversations between Yonder team and customers, and then now more recently we're starting to see conversations between customers. And so they'll be like, "Hey, my parents are in town. Where should I take them for dinner?" And normally that's when we would come in and be like, "Oh, here's what you should do." But it's like other customers like, "Oh, I just took my mum here," or "You should do this and this." And so eventually it's maybe like we're stepping out of that conversation and letting those conversations continue to happen. I think like any culture, the most important thing for us is that we set that culture really early as to like what good behavior and good relationships and good engagement look like in there, because online forums become more toxic over time. That's how they work. It is just human nature. And so you have to actively fight against that. And so even if it's not online forum and it's in product or something, I think it's something that we definitely have been thinking about, but it's bloody hard to do it. And there are obviously some good examples out there, and we probably need to borrow more from like maybe gaming communities than we do from like finance or something in terms of like what works.
Yeah, or like apps like Duolingo, for example, like they do like a lot. Yeah. Like that's some best in class, I guess, examples.
I don't know if you saw it, Tom. There was a post by Greg Eisenberg on LinkedIn the other day, and Yo tagged me in it, and it was really interesting. It's a bit too long to read it now, but he was basically saying like the difference between, or the way to consider a community versus an audience. And it's basically like you can think of an audience like a hotel. It's very transactional. You don't know the other people around you. You're just there to get something out of it and then you're gone. Whereas a community is more like an apartment building or an apartment, in that you get to know the people around you. You're there because it's a kind of safe space, and you naturally kind of connect with other people. And I think that's a really nice differentiation to make between it, because I think the audience and community can be used interchangeably, but I think there's a big difference with the audience of people that you're talking to, but then your community of users or the community of people that love your product and you as a brand. And I think you have to just treat them very differently, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And we've had some instances where people have like cancelled their cards because, they don't want a credit card, or they don't want to pay the fee, and they've been like, can you please not kick me out of the community? Like, I want to stay in Slack. And initially we were like, oh, well, like it feels a bit strange for us to do that. And we're like, well, look, if they're just enjoying being in there and there's like not causing it, then like, it's just, it's not a requirement really.
Yeah.
But I was definitely strange to sort of like get those types of messages. We're like, why though? Like, if you're not using it, what do you want? But I guess people are getting some value out of it, and the conversation in there beyond, just the product itself.
That surely is the best the best example of like the community is working and it's useful, and they're getting some value out of it, and they want to be part of it.
But if you want to stay in there, you got to pay £5 a month.
yeah, exactly.
Monetization. Cool, man. I think we don't want to, take too much of your time. We're getting close to the hour now, also a few minutes away. I guess we had like one question I wanted to ask. Well, Jake, you told me about it. Maybe you'll phrase it better than I do, but the question we want to ask every guest from now on. You want to have a go at it, Jake?
Oh yeah, sorry, I thought you were going to ask it then. Yeah, no,
Tom, actually forgot. I know we have to do it, but I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I was listening to I don't know if you know Lenny's podcast, but there's a good podcast called Lenny's podcast or Lenny's newsletter and podcast, and he had this guy on there who was a big growth advisor for like Facebook and effectively every Silicon Valley company, and he asked him, what's the one thing that you always ask people in an interview? And this was more like a recruiting interview, obviously. But I did say to you that we weren't going to ask because I don't want to put the pressure on you to answer it right now. But I'll just get your thoughts on it, maybe, or maybe your thoughts if you were asked this in an interview, to ease you into it. And what he asks is, tell me something about growth that I don't know. And I was like, I wouldn't necessarily know how to answer off the top of my head, but we were thinking maybe it could be like, what's something about how Yonder does growth that sets you guys apart from maybe the rest of the industry, without obviously giving away too many of your secrets or anything like that, or maybe how you guys think about growth that you think is unique.
Look, I just don't think I've worked in enough organizations to know how unique it is, but I'm happy to sort of like shed the light a little bit on sort of our learnings on growth, and I'll hopefully be able to do it in the next 2 minutes. I think when we launched last year and we sort of saw that early growth, I think everyone was looking to me as the head of marketing to like drive the growth. They were like, where's the growth? Where's the growth? And then when things slow down, they're like, oh, Tom's going to go fix the growth. And for me, it was a very, sort of painful, difficult challenge because I'd never worked as a growth marketer before. And, I was a product marketer. I used to product my way out of problems. and so I think we went on this, like I said, I call it a journey, but like this sense of like doing a lot of things wrong and working it out to get to a point where I think now we actually have a really good approach to growing as a business. And I think we've truly adopted that growth is everyone's responsibility within the whole business. And so, I think we've empowered, we've got like a growth team, sort of half of the product building team that work on growth, but growth now feels like something the whole team is working towards. And, I spoke to like 50 growth marketers and growth people last year when I was like, please tell me how to do this. Like, I'm really battling and I'll go to like meetups at night and like join the Facebook groups and all these things. And all they did was tell me the stories about when growth didn't work. And they were like, don't go and hire a growth marketer and just be like, this is your job now, because that person will then get fired or they'll quit because they don't have the support. So I think, the biggest thing that when I'm speaking to companies about growth is that like it is everyone's responsibility. How that looks like from a practical perspective for us and how I work with my team on that is marketing is sort of broadly responsible for bringing high value, high intent people to our website or to download our app, into our ecosystem, you can call it. So whether that's through social or web or whatever, we're all about doing things that can optimize for that. So that might be out of home or social media or other, like ways that we can generate interest in what we're doing and awareness. And then we sort of have, you just call that top of funnel. And then we sort of have a team that then takes over around like middle and bottom funnel. And that for us becomes around like the application process and all of the more deeper underlying credit aspects. So that's like credit checks, verifications and optimizing all of these things. Because if you say to a marketer, like go and fix growth, they have no say in the verification tools that you're using or the processes there or the risk models that under credit is all about risk modeling. Like to say that a marketer is responsible for doing that is, I think, is just going to set them up to fail and your business up to fail. Like, so that's been the biggest sort of learning for us is changing our mentality to a point where like we are all empowered to impact growth and we now know what to do it. Like my team is all about bringing high value, high intent people to the website to start an application in our product. Then it becomes about, okay, now how do we optimize the application and their understanding of the product? And then it's like, how do we get more people into the product? And then we have a whole team that works on member value. And, growth is two-sided, right? It's both new customers and ones leaving. And so the member value team is all about reducing churn, increasing engagement and value over time. So, the whole company is working on it. It's no longer just the marketer's job to go and fix growth, because you find yourself in a very difficult position there. And, thankfully we've of evolved our thinking there. And it was no one's fault. Everyone at Yonder is doing this for the first time. It's my first time as a head of market. It's all of our founders, as brilliant as they are, it's their first time in their sort of founder role. So this, I think, is just part of being in a startup and working it out. It's not, we weren't supposed to know this beforehand. That's just part of the process, I think.
Yeah. It sounds like you guys are killing it, so.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, it's fun. We're loving it. It's bloody hard. It's a bad time to be a startup but it's
You're doing it. You're doing it. Thanks, Tom. That was great. Thank you for joining, for your time, and answering all our questions. That was really insightful.
Thank you so much, Jake. And thanks, Yoann. Congratulations on all the success so far with the podcast. Continue to climb up that into the top 10 and top 5. And super keen. And nice work, guys. This is great.
Brilliant,
Amazing.
Tom. Thank you, mate. It's excellent episode.
Cheers.
That was nice. Loved it. Lots of really good community insights and how to think about it. Really even cool. I got 2 or 3 nuggets. I was like, shit, we're not doing that right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I feel the same. Yeah, hopefully people can take something away from some of these. When it's not just me and you talking, maybe they'll learn something.
Yeah, when we bring someone else we do a little trio every time the next person brings the value, and we just talk around it.
I put some of one of those. I think you saw it. You liked it. One of the vertical videos on my TikTok.
Yeah, I saw.
It got 2 views. And the other 3 videos
one of them is me.
Have all got 900. Yeah, that's the thing. It's got you in it. The other 3 I've got have all got 900. So I don't know what I've done wrong. Maybe I haven't put enough keywords in. So I got rid of it, putting it out with exactly the same keywords as before. Still only 5. I don't know. It's somehow linked to you, so it doesn't like you.
It's linked to me. Do you think we're gonna get to 1,000 before the end of June?
What are we at now?
550 almost. And it's the 19th, so we almost did it in 15. We did it in 20, but
I reckon that should be our challenge. If we can get 1,000 by the 1st of July, then we should get a load of stickers printed and then offer every listener they can DM us, and we'd just send them out a sticker in an envelope.
Yeah, literally, that's fine. We should do that.
I'll put that into the podcast, so we've committed it to tape.
No, but we should. Yeah, we should. All these things they don't cost much. We can get 100 or 500, whatever.
Yeah, I don't mind writing out 100 envelopes to send people a sticker either.
Yeah, that's fine. Cool, man.
Okay.
All right.
Sweet.
Exciting.
Another job done. This is where we found out I hadn't actually pressed record.